So let me give you an experience. I was there at the National Health Conference where you were as well, and I believe you were speaking there too. And my age is now 55. So sometimes when I close my fists, I develop a little bit of a pain here. And I said, all right, I am slowly becoming inflamed and I need to cut carbs, etc. However, when I was there, the hotel's kitchen was actually all plant-based. And so that is the only thing we were getting. And within 2 days, I did not have any further pain and I could close my fists correctly. And even I was just playing with my fingers and somebody said, are you too nervous? And I said, no, I am just amazed that I do not have pain in my fingers. And that is my experience, the very first experience with this. If somebody wants to get on to this path, again, for my audience, there are various kinds of dietary patterns, and you can follow whichever your heart desires. We are talking about the plant-based diet today. So, and Dr. Fuhrman, I have your book here as well with me, Eat for Life, beautiful book. And I'm at the chapter number 8, where there are how to cook, eat, and live. So the question is, if somebody wants to start, what is the best way to move forward?
Do you mean move forward learning about this, or move forward what kind of dietary changes they should make first?
Correct. So what do? Do I just one day decide that I have become plant-based and I stop everything that I do today, omnivorous diet, and just start it? Or is there a gradual transition towards it? How do people transition?
Well, it's different for each person. Like if a person came to me as a patient and said to me, I have asthma, or I have diabetes, or I have rheumatoid arthritis, and I want you to help me get well. Or I'm just overweight and have high blood pressure and diabetes. By the way, I just want to stick in here that when people come to my retreat in San Diego and follow the diet that I feed them so they're doing it perfectly, 80% of the type 2 diabetics are well with or without diabetes in the first month. And about 80% of people on blood pressure medications have normalized their blood pressure within 1 month and don't need blood pressure medications anymore. The extra 20% that don't take longer, of course, but most of them still get well, unless they're so advanced in age or so advanced in pathology. But I'm saying that this rapidly reduces inflammation, the markers of inflammation like HSCRP, myeloperoxidase, and oxidized LDL, which are more, when you have a combination of HSCRP, myeloperoxidase, and oxidized LDL, you have a high risk of having a heart attack. And we see those numbers drop down radically within a week. So we see tremendous improvement in inflammatory markers when people eat a diet this rich in micronutrients. But the answer to your question is where to start. The best place to start is maybe reading my most recent book, Eat for Life. But I'll say to the person, look, what do you feel ready for at this point? Do you want me to give you, do you want to get maximum benefit? Lose as much weight as you can this month. And most men might lose 20 pounds the first month, and most women 15 pounds the first month. Maybe men will lose 15 pounds the second month, women lose 10 pounds the second month, and they'll both lose 8 to 10 pounds each month thereafter until they reach their ideal weight. Do you really want to get off these medications, normalize your blood pressure, improve your asthma, get rid of your arthritic pain? Do you want to get maximally well and do everything right? Or is that a little much, or you're not ready for that yet? Or should we start moving slower and make improvements so you lose some weight and get healthier? What do you think you're ready to do? And very often the person will say to me, I'll eat sawdust to get well. Just get me off these drugs and get me well again. And I'll eat whatever you say. And then I'll say to them, well, if you really want to do whatever you can to let go, I'll tell you what, I'm going to write down every meal what you should eat. And if you just follow this, you do it exactly I say, you'll see the magic will happen. But otherwise, I can just give you some guidance for improvement if you still want to eat the foods you are used to eating and want to do this more slowly. So when you let the person make the choice, they very often choose a more aggressive approach, but sometimes they're not ready for that change. But I remember when I wrote Eat to Live, which was my first book published in 2003 or 2004, I wrote in the first chapter, I wrote, don't change your diet and go up into the recipes right now. First, read the whole book. Get the information first. Then you can decide what level you want to enter at and how strict and what you want to do. But I'm, encouraging people to make a radical jump here, because for most people who are food addicts or overweight and have trouble changing, the dipping in the foods they think they can't live without, it's like an alcoholic going to the drink alcohol on the weekends. It keeps lighting the fires under their desire and makes them continue to want to eat French fries and pizza and cookies, and they still want that garbage and the fried foods. But the minute they make the choice to be totally divorced from that and go onto the healthy diet, you'll see in like a month or two, you lose the desire for those things, and you are not really feeling you're missing the things because your taste muscle changes, and you don't keep lighting the desire for those things and reinstituting your need for them. So the answer to your question is variable from person to person, right? You would optimize that to the person's needs, but also the other part of the question is, like, where would a person generally start if they're not willing to jump all the way? I would say, why don't you start by eating the lunch that I eat? Why don't you just change your lunch? Because lunch is the most important meal of the day, and we can get a lot of great food into you for lunch. It's important for many reasons. One reason is many people are away from their home during lunch, and they're tempted to eat all kinds of garbage in the standard American environment. So my lunch, and the lunch I serve to people, is a big salad. And the salad has both lettuce and some green cruciferous like arugula or bok choy or cabbage, shredded cabbage, something like that. So a mixture between lettuces and arugula. And we could talk about lettuces and cruciferous, why that's so important. Something from the onion family, like scallion or red onion in there. And then you put what you want in there, tomatoes and other things you might want in your salad, peas, beans, whatever you might want. But then what makes this unique is the dressing is not from oil and vinegar, it's nuts and seeds and vinegar. So we might have made a dressing, you can buy a bottle like this, but we made the dressing. It might be a navel orange blended with sesame seeds and cashews and some blood orange vinegar and a squeeze of lemon to make a sesame orange dressing. Or it might have been some garlicky thickened tomato sauce with some almond butter mashed in with some black fig vinegar, or maybe a garlicky tomato sauce with almonds and hemp seeds in the blender with some black fig or balsamic vinegar and maybe so in other words, we're making salad dressings out of nuts and seeds, not out of oil, because they have a different biological effect on the body. And then maybe a bowl. So the salad is a big salad, not a soup bowl size, maybe a serving bowl size. And then we're having a bowl, let's say a bowl of vegetable bean soup with mushrooms in it. And then some fresh fruit for dessert, like some figs or a mango or some frozen strawberries or something, or so some kind of, or a nectarine or some kind of fruit, So salad, soup, fruit, and the soup is made, obviously we're putting beans and mushrooms and vegetables in the soup, and then the salad dressing is obviously not just pouring oil over your salad, because oil is 120 calories a tablespoon. And 2 or 3 tablespoons of oil is 360 calories, 250 to 360 calories on 50 calories of raw vegetables. You might as well just drink the dressing straight from the bottle because you're just pouring calories. And those calories have a high caloric rush. So what I'm saying right here is that there are certain foods that have a high caloric rush, like sugar and honey and maple syrup. And in other words, and white flour. White flour is a sugar equivalent. White flour and sugar goes whoosh. You throw those glucose calories into the bloodstream, a huge spike, a huge bolus of calories in the blood. Same thing when you have oil, because when you have nuts and seeds, the fat is absorbed at about 1 or 2 calories a minute, so your body can preferentially burn it for energy. But when you have oil, you get 100 calories a minute, 50 to 100 calories a minute coming in. And you have sugar and honey, and you got a spike of sugar in the bloodstream. Here's what I'm saying. I'm saying all these calories into the bloodstream at one time stimulates the brain like a narcotic in the opiate centers of the brain. And over time, you become dopamine resistant, and you want more rush, but also people feel empty, not satisfied, unless they stimulate that caloric rush they've been habituated to. And they're feeling like, oh, I can't just eat a salad and a box of frozen broccoli and a mango and some vegetable bean soup and be satisfied. I got to have something like a piece of cheesecake or an ice cream cone or some French fries or I got to have something more satisfying, because their whole body is, you have an appetite, you have an appetite in your stomach and an appetite in the hypothalamus. And these things are discombobulated with these processed foods and people just desiring more calories. And by the way, Americans are probably eating double the amount of calories people need. They eat on the average about over 3,000 calories a day. Most primitive societies in the history of the human race. And even rural China and populations that are separated from human civilization are all eating about 1,500, 1,600 calories a day. So I always make the joke, I say, we live on half of what we eat. So half of what we eat meets our needs, and the other half meets the needs of our doctors. And even though it's a joke, it's really kind of true in the sense that we are approximately double the amount of calories we need. That's why everybody's so overweight. Not just eating 100 calories more a day than they should be having. They're eating 300, 400, 1,000 more calories than people should be having a day. But because we're socialized in the modern world that we live in, where everybody's eating processed foods and oils and fried foods and we're eating foods designed to get us hooked and make us want to eat more calories and make us unsatisfied unless we overeat. So it leads to an unhealthy relationship with food, where food becomes a drive that we can't resist, and people just grow bigger and more unhealthy. I speak to medical conferences, and I say, the first thing I ask the doctors, I say, raise your hand if you had a family member who's been shot by a bullet or stabbed by a knife, and like nobody raises their hand. And I say, what about a heart attack or a cancer diagnosis or a stroke? And almost everybody raises their hand. And I say to them, and that's a neighborhood that you want to live in when you think you're going to escape from these weapons of mass destruction on every street corner? If you want to have happen to you what happens to everybody else, you don't escape from laws of biology, laws of cause and effect. If you eat the way other people eat, you're going to get what they get. But now we have these advances in nutritional science that show a much underappreciated ability to protect against chronic disease. And this ability to really protect against prostate and breast cancer, colon cancer is easier to protect against, obviously but the idea that we can really protect against breast and prostate cancer is totally unappreciated as to the power food has, because it's easier to protect against heart attacks and strokes,
Understood. Thank you so much. Sorry, please.
I'm saying that if you want to be protected against heart attacks and strokes, have a normal body weight, a normal blood pressure without medication, a normal cholesterol without medication, and normal glucose without medication, and good exercise tolerance, and and don't have any inflammation. So I'm saying here that I'm not just offering protection against heart attacks and strokes. People have to earn that. They have to earn that with their lifestyle and their diet. Because if you're just taking medications to lower the blood pressure, lower the blood sugar, or lower the blood cholesterol, you're not going to be protected. Medications just allow you to think you're okay because the numbers look better. I'm saying you have to actually walk the walk and earn good numbers, not medicate yourself into good numbers.